All right, welcome everyone. If you don't mind, we're in the house of God. Let's open in a word of prayer. Father in heaven, thank you. We come to this place thanking you for breath, for the air in our lungs, for every single thing. And Father, we thank you for freedom. You made us free, and we just know it to our very core. So thank you so much. We pray for tonight that you would bless this evening, and thank you for the ways that you encourage us as the forces of good move forward, and we see forces of darkness push back. And Lord, we can't take credit for that. We ask for your angels at work. We pray for you to do the things in the invisible places that we can't see. But Lord, we just thank you again for tonight. May your blessing be on us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, well, welcome everybody. And if we could stand together, we salute the flag, and we'll just begin like this. I pledge allegiance. Justice for all. So, for those of you, you may be seated. For those of you that don't know who the Douglas County Citizens Coalition, I'm not sure how notorious we are. I mean, it's just something that instantly appeared about a year and a month ago in August last year, and it was mostly when the notification went out to pretty much the state of Oregon that everybody, at least in education and everybody in a government job and healthcare, anybody was going to be losing their jobs on October 18th, and that's literally what happened. Just people came out of the woodworks. This place filled up with people. We had people over at the park, and we were gathering with all kinds of people saying, this is not going to happen in our community, and we're going to do everything we can. And so we put this vision statement together that this Douglas County Citizens Coalition is dedicated to peacefully working together to protect our freedoms by taking intelligent action, offering real solutions. I love this phrase, to those in power. I mean, we were pleading, is there anything that can be done? Can anyone stand up and say, this is not happening on my watch? There are people in power who I believe honestly, many of them stood by and let things happen and watched our freedoms be eroded. And we became a group that is, look, as best we can, we want to be that group in this community dedicated to peacefully working together, protect our freedoms, taking intelligent action, offering real solutions to those in power, standing with each other when needed, and using the Constitution as its supporting laws as our indisputable platform. So, people want to know, do I have the right credentials to deny the government? And it is, yes, I've got a Constitution. So, all right, so that's what we are about. Tonight's agenda is not really that long. It's just going to include something that I'm going to share. Janae is back. She's here. Okay, good. We just saw a note that she's going to be a little late, but she's back. So you're right up after me. And then Abby, are you coming up to say something after me? Okay, and then we're just going to, we have a great group of people here representing Alex Scarlatos, and that should be the evening, okay? So my little part to begin with was just to make a reference regarding what's going on and what has been going on for quite some time over at the Republican Party and their board and issues. And I'm basically trying to give what I would call a kind of an official position. And here's what I want to say about the For those of you that don't know, the Douglas County Republican Party has been experiencing what I would call some conflict. And to say it lightly, right, Mom? Yeah. Okay, they've just been going through relentless, ongoing conflict. There are two factions, generally, to speak of in that group. And I want to say this because as Douglas County Citizens Coalition, it is our official position that we have no responsibility with changing what's going on over there. I just want to say, as the DCCC, we officially have no responsibility, nor are we trying to be lobbied by one faction or another to upset or to change the future or to change the board or do anything like that. We are citizens. Now, I think that when they sort that out, the Douglas County Republican Party, it would behoove them to care about what the citizens think about the issues going on and so on. But right now, just to let you know, as they sort this out, we are not it is not in our vision statement to be involved in that. Okay? Here's the thing, though. If you want to know what our recommendation might be, which, by the way, they're not asking for our recommendation, nor is it our job to give them a recommendation. But I could tell you what we kind of think. You know, either A, one of those factions should just resign, or the other should just resign, or maybe they should all just resign. And to be honest, start with a clean slate. Now, they are going through a board nomination process and a re-election. Apparently, that's sometime set in November. I don't know when, but they're going to be doing that. And they'll either do it their old way, and they'll have an election that way. We recommend that they listen to the PCPs as well. From what I understand, the system is already in place for them to have all the nominations come from every group. But I'm just going to tell you, the Douglas County Citizens Coalition is not involved in that whole process. But I guarantee you the PCPs are, and they probably will. They'll probably make their voice known. So just to let you know, as far as this group is concerned, we're not involved. But we are vested in what happens. We'd love to see some unity reappear. And a lot of us here are PCPs. I'm just taking off my PCP hat right now, and I'm just saying, as an admin for the Douglas County Citizens Coalition, we're not involved. Okay? Fair enough? Can we move on to the next subject now? All right, let's go. Janae, come on up here.
Good evening. Well, lots of things have been happening in our schools starting. I can say honestly all day, you can ask my husband, I've just been ramped up about a lot of things that's going on in our nation. And he's back there shaking his head. It's easy to get fired up about a lot of things that need justice. But Moms for Liberty, our next meeting is this next Monday here at Journey at 7. Just like the Republican SOS group, Save Our Schools, we're looking for some candidates and for school board elections in May. If you'd like to be considered or know someone who wants to put their name in the hat for school board, let me know. Because that's one of the jobs of Moms for Liberty. We vet candidates that have the same values for the parental controls of their children's health and their education. Go to school board meetings. Meet your school board members. Just don't sit in on a meeting. Take a little bit of time afterwards. Go up, shake their hand, tell them thank you for what they're doing. Let them know who you are, why you're there. Even if you're just a tax-paying citizen, you don't have any children or grandchildren, just let them know. Because actually they do appreciate that the public goes and listens. Most school boards do. I know Roseburg, when I went there and visited, they noticed because not very many people go to them. Sorry here, I wrote down on my notes. I'll just rip that one off. All right, so encourage others. We're just encouraging people to get involved with us. Currently, right now, what Moms for Liberty is doing, at least at the national level that's going around, is they're looking into types of books in the school libraries. And, they've been around for a while, but a lot of us just don't go into the school libraries and see what's on the shelf. We just all assume that the schools have our best interests, and it'd be interesting to find out who actually orders those books. A lot of them are called young adult. That is apparently between the ages of 6th grade up to 18. So what is 6th grade? Well, it could actually be, an 11-year-old. And some of these young adult books are horrible. They shouldn't even be in our schools. But one in particular was called Finding Alaska. This was on our, our national chapter chair. And I looked it up, and Roseburg High School has a copy, and so does Fremont Junior High. Finding Alaska. It is not about the state. Alaska's a young girl. It's about a boarding school in Alabama. So a lot could probably happen in a boarding school. So just look it up if you guys are interested. You can look up reviews online. I think booklook.com. You guys can go to booklook.com. I believe that gives a review, and it'll give an excerpt of books that have inappropriate information or stories. It seems like a lot of schools are using, or not schools, but a lot of the advocate groups are using BookLook. Next weekend, I'll be attending the Oregon Moms Union Conference. I don't know if you guys know who Oregon Moms Union is. That is Stan Pulliam's wife, Mackenzie Pulliam's. That's her group that she started. And they're having, it's called a Parents Matter Summit. So again, they're the same kind of things that we are. We're wanting to advocate for parents and kids, help bring parental rights and choice back to the Oregon education system. They'll have 5 keynote speakers, and the main speaker is Rebecca Friedrichs. She was a teacher for 28 years, and she won a lawsuit in California before the Supreme Court in 2016 to end forced unionism for all teachers and government employees. And when I worked for the school district for 7 years, no one ever told me, because if this happened in 2016, I quit in 2017. And I always would think to myself, why do I have to pay, $25-something every month to something I don't believe in? I don't like who they give my money to, so why do I have to do it? And same thing when I worked for UPS. Anyway. But she was a teacher, and she won this in front of the Supreme Court, and so that ended paying union dues if you didn't want to do that anymore. She wrote a book called Standing Up to Goliath that talked about and exposes the corruptness of unions. She also produced a documentary that they're actually going to show this weekend called Whose Children Are They? You guys can Google that, and you can see the trailer. WhoseChildrenAreThey.com. You can go there and buy the movie. Hopefully maybe this weekend when I'm there, they'll be giving it at a discount, or maybe I can be able to show it like in a group. It came out in March of this year. So it's talking about the hidden agenda in America's schools. She also spoke at the 2020 Republican National Convention, so I think it's going to be a real informative 2 days. It does cost $250 per person. It's 2 days. If you guys are interested, let me know, and you can get a ride with me to go up there. It's this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the 16th and 17th. The last thing I have is don't forget to give your comment today on Title IX, because I can hear Clay telling me in my ears. Title IX, if you guys don't know what Title IX is there anybody here that doesn't realize what Title IX is in the school? So Title IX, it's actually a lot of things wrapped up. It's all about the gender ideology. So we were talking today about sports teams. I mean, the Penn State swimmer, who it biologically is a male, and they won in the female NCAA swimming championships. Is that fair? No. So that's going to go down. There's not going to be any safe single-sex spaces. If I want to be just like that swim team, they had to look at his body parts when they're all in the swim locker room, changing into their swim gear. They're not going to be a safe place. And you're going to have to know all your pronouns. So if you say something to somebody like he when you should have used she, they can actually go after you and investigate you, and teachers will be included in on this. So it's not a good thing. But today's the last day you guys can give your comments. It's federally, so it could affect all of us in a really negative light. What's that? It is Federal Registry. No, federalregister.com. Yeah. Okay, so in other words, that site is trying to delete off the negative. It was what, about 400,000, and now apparently they have somehow disappeared and are down to 150,000. Yes, so, yep. So you could probably find it. I'm probably not telling you the right, everything.com or .gov is what it would be, but just look up Title IX commenting. All right, and that's all I have.
Okay, so I'm going to just do a real super fast election integrity update. We've kind of switched on our canvassing goal to looking into those addresses that have multiple registrations to look into. We have a kind of a goal set date to have that information before the end of the month. And we're still waiting on the feedback on the third draft of the initiative petition for the hand counting. Loretta couldn't be here tonight, but she did say they're still waiting to hear back, I think from Mark Thielman's camp on that, because they have some experience looking at those, drafting those initiative petitions. Also, we have talked about, and I don't know if Cherie's here, or is Terry here? Either of them? We haven't seen? Oh, she wasn't, okay. Well, then, if there's anybody who's interested in looking into the mystery of the write-in PCPs from the primaries, let us know. We'll get you in touch with Terry or Cherie, because they are. Oh, okay. Okay. Perfect. So there's action on that. Okay. And then second, really quick, I needed to remind everyone that there is the Measure 114 that's going to be, am I saying it right? Measure 114? 114, the gun laws that they're going to try to pass. There's going to be a town hall meeting September 27th over here at the Douglas County Courthouse Annex Building, which is like where the extension office is. I know it is the 4-H office. So it's on September 27th from 6 to 8, a town hall meeting. And we were asked to try to get as many people as possible there to hear that information. They're going to have a speaker up there on that topic. So I'll keep reminding people, and we'll have something on our Telegram channel too as a reminder. But 6 to 8 p.m., September 27th at the Annex Building over there. And again, I've said this before, we don't thank Jeff enough for everything he does. He allows us to use this space for our meetings. We're not actually a part of Journey Church, but we are able to use this space, and Jeff gets it out there for us with our YouTube link. We have t-shirts and tank tops in the back too, guys. Check that out. There's a lot of stuff back there. Check all that area out on your way out. There's lots of stuff to look over tonight. Also, I just kind of want to put out for everyone that sometimes when it seems like, what are we even getting done? Or is there anything that's happened? We've been coming in these meetings, and I just want to remind everyone, we have accomplished, I think, quite a bit in the last year. One of these days, we'll have to make a big, long list of all the things that we've done to post just to show everyone. But it might not be something significantly huge that you see at one time, but in the last year, we've done a lot of things, and we have made progress, and we have to remember that the mess we're in now wasn't created in a short period of time. It's happened over a long period of time, and we've just kind of let it go on. So it's going to take us a while to dig out of it. So it's the long haul that we're looking at. And so I would say stay diligent and continue to be aware, spread the awareness. That doesn't mean you have to go out and pick a fight with someone about Donald Trump. That means you can talk to people about, there's so many issues, fuel, groceries, water issues. There's a lot of issues that you can talk about with people, but get conversations going. These measures that we're trying to get the information out about, maybe people aren't aware of those. I know people aren't aware of them. So even just, on that basic level of just talking to your neighbor, striking up conversations at the stores, and then also, attending meetings, school board meetings, city council, board of commissioners, and most imperatively, I would say voting. And I say go to the meetings because don't just give them, we've given them a long time, just kind of free license to do whatever without any accountability. And so I know for our school board meetings at Glide, if we're not going and complaining, then there's nothing for them to get backed up on. But if we're there every month and they know we're going to be there, they know how they have to answer to us, and we have made progress there. So don't give them a free pass. Give them hell and hold them accountable. And also, we talked about this earlier this morning. No matter what stage of life a person is in or what walk of life they are in, everything that's happening right now, whether it's government, politics, whatever you want to call it, affects every single person that you know or don't know. And everyone you talk to, they might say, well, it doesn't affect me. I'm not going to get involved or invested in that, but it does affect all of us. So anyways, having said all of that, that's my pretty basic Braveheart speech for the night. We thought a good idea to have some people who are kind of in the thick of things come up and talk to us about how to continue to get more organized and utilize our grassroots efforts to continue to make positive change in our county and state. And so, this isn't a candidate platform. This is a grassroots organizing. We're going to ask everyone to hold on to their questions so that we can just have kind of a conversation up here to get some information out for everyone. And then we'll see at the end how we're doing time-wise. And if there's a little bit of time at the end, maybe we'll do a couple questions. And then after we're done here, as long as they're here and available, I'm sure they're free to answer all of your questions or conversation in the back. I think they have some information you can look at back there. For now, who's all coming up? How many chairs do I need to get up here? Okay, well, bring it. I got a couple chairs for you guys. Okay. Yeah, let's get another microphone up here. Oh, right here. There you go. You guys can turn that on. Pass it. Okay. You guys, that's a great little thing to have up there.
Yellow.
Okay, so first, why don't we have you guys introduce yourselves?
So I think most of you know me by now. I've been around for a little bit. Alex Scarlatos, I'm running for Congress.
My name's Ross Ferguson. I am Alex Scarlatos' campaign manager. I moved out here in 2019 to the great state of Oregon. I was fortunate enough to be Alex's campaign manager last time. And yeah, just a little bit more about me. So I graduated college in 2014.
Hold your mic.
Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. Graduated college in 2014, worked in politics. Since then, moved all around the country, worked on a lot of interesting races, got to meet a lot of interesting people. So yeah, I actually started in the field, so it's kind of my bread and butter. And yeah, it's really important to me. So.
My name's Elias. I think most of you know me. I'm just up here to take all the hard questions so they don't. So I'm Alex, Deputy Campaign Manager, and glad to be able to come out here and talk to you guys about grassroots organizing.
All right. I want to throw a question at you since you didn't come up because I feel like you're chicken, but I'll save that for later. It's all right. Anyways, okay, so like I said, we're just going to kind of have conversation up here. So, I probably should have put these in a little bit more organized order, but I didn't. So let's start out with so this is something that came up. This has come up between, I think, the commissioners and conversations too, when we go in there kind of like, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. And they're like, whoa, this is kind of the boundaries the commissioners have. So same thing goes for state and federal issues. So let's start off with, can you explain basically kind of the difference between the difference between the state and federal issues as far as, well, the difference between them and then like what can be done to affect either?
All right, so I'm running for federal office, so we govern any law that's going to be across the entire country. The Constitution delegates certain things to the federal government and certain things to the states. So, for example, since I know a lot of you are working on election integrity, that's going to be something that's going to be administered to the states. So the states, under the Constitution, are the ones that run elections in this country. So if you have a problem with, say, voter integrity, the biggest thing you can do is help us flip the state legislature and the state senate, and hopefully the governor's mansion as well. Also, on that end, your county clerk is the one that administers the election rules that is set by the state. And of course, that's Dan Loomis, who I'm sure you all are familiar with.
So, so you have over here this map. I don't know how well anybody can see it, but you can come and look it out afterwards. So this map outlines the congressional districts that were changed last fall due to go ahead, explain how they got it.
There we go. I'll take this one. Anyway, so every 10 years, as we all know, the United States does a census, right? So Oregon was one of the states that got a new congressional district this year. So we had 5, now we have 6, so they redraw the lines, right? So that's kind of how it goes off. This congressional district, the 4th, we're in yellow up here, it has about 706,000 people inside of it. So, and I want to say of that 706,000, there are 511,000 registered voters. There are 172,000 Democrats registered in the 4th. There are 133,000 Republicans registered in the 4th. There's another 172,000 unaffiliated voters registered in the 4th. And there's about 35,000 other parties, Green Pacific, what have you. So from those numbers, you can already tell we're at a little bit of a disadvantage, right? So there's only 133,000 Republicans compared to 172,000 Democrats. So this is a D+4 district. So it's Democrat by 4 percentage points, which means we have to run a common sense campaign to where we appeal not only to Republicans, soft Democrats, but mostly people in the middle. Because, like I said, there's 172,000 registered Republicans, there's 170,000 registered unaffiliated voters, and those are the people that we're really fighting over, right? So, we have to run on common sense things like, inflation, gas prices, things of that nature. So there's the 4th, and like if you have any more questions about it, feel free to come up. But unfortunately, they cut Douglas in half, which is not good. We lost about 20,000 Republican voters, but we're giving it 110% every day. We're out there knocking doors, writing postcards, making phone calls. We're constantly raising money. So trust me, we're really out there fighting every day. And it's also an open seat. So I'm sure, as you know, Peter DeFazio's held the seat for 36 years. I'm 31. So that tells you anything. He's been there for quite some time. But so this is a really special year because it happened in redistricting, and it's also an open seat. So this is something. So the voters aren't necessarily familiar with Val Hoyle, the lady that's running against us, or Alec. And we can win over a lot of those people, right? Peter DeFazio had an iron grip on this district for 36 years. We came within 5 points of beating him in 20 when the district was a little bit more friendlier. But nonetheless, we're at it again, and we're going to get it done. So, you got anything to add?
For those that can't see the map, I just want to say that it's Lincoln County. Oh, well, there you go. Thank you. Lincoln County, Benton County, Lane County. The northern half of Douglas cuts off about exit 113 on the freeway, and then Coos and Curry. So again, we still have a little bit of an uphill battle, but the one upside to this map is that instead of giving the Republicans another congressional district in southwestern Oregon like they probably should have, what they did was they drew multiple districts to be competitive. So not only is this one in play this year, but the 2 districts north of it, the 5th and the 6th, that's the pink and the teal, I guess, district. Both of those, one's an open D+1, one's another open D+4. So that's 3 open seats that are all winnable in this kind of a year. So not only are we making a concerted effort for this district, but the National Party is helping out the other 2 districts as well, which in turn should also help us win the governor's mansion. Every once in a while, Oregon gets a competitive governor's race or a competitive congressional race, but we've never had 3 at the same time along with the governor's mansion. So hopefully we're all going to get a lot of good national help and hopefully win all 4 of those competitive seats this year.
That'd be great. So I don't know if any of you were here. I think it was last fall when they had the redistricting. But that's one of the things that we've done and again, this is new to some of us. It's new to me. I didn't know what redistricting. He said everyone probably knows about every 10 years. I didn't know until last fall. But that's one of the things we had as an action item was for people to, it was open, the hearings on redistricting was open to the public to testify. I set my computer up in my kitchen while I was making dinner and sat and waited my turn and testified. I didn't really know much about it, but I still gave, I did a little research going into it for like a day and gave my testimony. But as we continue to move through all of these processes and learn, I think, and get organized, then we will see what's coming and expect it. And hopefully, again, if we can spread that awareness and be ready for those things and more people come up against it, it'll be, I think, harder and harder for them to get away with just saying, you know what, it doesn't matter if this all makes sense and if this is fair, we're just going to do it this way. So anyways, so you're talking about, I think we'll skip to my question down the list here. You mentioned that DeFazio's out, so you're not running against an incumbent this year, but a lot of times that is the case in Oregon. So earlier today, Ross, you mentioned that it can be done, that you can beat an incumbent. So can you speak to that for any of those races that people, whether it's school boards, local races, or state or whatever, if people are up against an incumbent, what kinds of things can get them around that?
So I would just say you can beat an incumbent. It's just very different, especially depending on the race. For instance, in Douglas County, you can beat an incumbent. You just have to run to the right of them. In a race like ours, you have to pick up voters in the middle. So they're very different races, but incumbents can be beat. It just has to be the right district and the right kind of race, right? So in this kind of a district, or last race, for instance, against Peter DeFazio, our district was even. You can beat an incumbent in an even district. In this kind of district now, it's a D+4. It means it leans Democrat by 4 percentage points. Still not that tough of a hill to climb, but the difference is this is an open seat, so there's no incumbent. In a D+4 with no incumbent, very winnable district. A D+4 with a Democrat incumbent, very hard to beat. And that's why it's so important that we win this year. If you get, again, DeFazio represented an even district for 36 years and no one ever came close to beating him, except maybe us last time. If we get an incumbent Democrat in a D+4 district in this year, they're going to be there for another 36 years. And we will not have a chance of beating them if they're in a D+4 district. You guys got anything to add?
Yeah, just on top of that, I just want to say, politics is a little bit of art and science. It just comes down to X's and O's, right? Blocking and tackling, and that's what a lot of people miss. If you can outwork your opponent, I'm here to tell you, I've been on plenty of losing races. I've been on plenty of winning races, right? But, it's just how hard can you work? Can you outwork your opponent, right? And we worked hard in 20, don't get me wrong, but and we came within 5 percentage points of beating a 36-year incumbent, which, I always pat myself on the head for that one. But, these two, too, as well. But nonetheless, it's about getting out there, talking to your neighbors, and on top of that, working smarter, not harder, right? You know what I mean? Like, instead of going and knocking your whole neighborhood, there's technology out there that exists that, you can identify who in your neighborhood you need to speak to, right? Instead of just, everyone. So, resources are finite, your time's finite, so why not, make the best of your time, so.
Well, you want to work smarter and harder to beat an incumbent. It basically comes out to, like Ross said, the basics. I've been involved in Oregon politics pretty much my whole life, even as a kid, with different groups, paying attention. And one constant I've always noticed is Republicans in Oregon always want some magic pill that is just going to change the game. If we just get this one thing, if we just get this one group to work with us, if we just pass this one bill or this one ballot measure, or we just talk about this one issue, we'll win in a landslide. And you always fail because it's not about a magic pill. It's about X's and O's. It's about doing the basics better than anyone else, getting out, knocking doors, connecting with voters. It all comes down to that. It's simple, it's boring, and it works.
I just had a thought and I just totally lost it. But anyways, so on that, Ross, you mentioned that there's resources as far as going out to your neighborhoods. Like earlier today, you mentioned if you have 30 Republicans in your neighborhood, I'm sorry, say 30 people in your neighborhood, 20 are Republicans, 10 are not. Who do you go to? Do you go to the Republicans or do you go to?
Yeah, so you would think everybody, right? Which you're not necessarily wrong, but like once again, we have a finite amount of time, right? Alex a Republican, right? So hopefully all the Republicans are already going to vote for him. Now, of course, we'll come to places like this, and so in the primary, we really worked on that, right? We went to all the county parties, drumming up support, right? But now we have to change our focus to the unaffiliated voters, because once again, if you're a good Republican, hopefully you're going to vote Republican. You don't necessarily need that much convincing. So then once again, we have 57 days till the election, right? I mean, we're here tonight talking to Republicans, which is, great, but like when we're out, knocking doors, I'm not necessarily talking to Republicans because once again, hopefully they'll already vote for us. I'm out talking to the unaffiliated voter, right? The undecided voter is who you need to be out there talking to. And we'll go knock doors, and I go knock on someone's door and they're undecided. Well, hey, is there any questions that Alec can help you answer? Well, yeah, well, let me get him over here, right? So once again, it's just, there's a finite amount of time and resources when it comes to these things. And also you have to capture people's attention. I mean, sure, I would love to be knocking doors a year and a half ago, right? But who cares, right? People's attention spans
90 days.
Of a gnat. Yeah, exactly. So, that's why it's so important to be, work smarter, not harder. And there's technology exists. We pour over data constantly. We have hundreds of tens, a bunch of maps in the office that we just go over, and we break it down to the precinct level, right? So we did an autopsy on the 20 election to go back to see, what percentage of the vote Alec got in certain precincts, right? And also, even down to, even more from that is like, so I would love to go knock doors in Curry County and Brookings, which is in the district, right? Or even here in Roseburg. But really, once again, you only have so much time. We're focusing all of our efforts in the Eugene-Springfield area, really the Springfield area, because we know that those people can be flipped. And then you get even farther than that. We go to the precinct level. We see, what percentage of the vote Alec got. And then, we see what we need to do better there with things called vote goals, right? I need to get X amount of the vote in this precinct in order for Alec to win. So, like, once again, you can work smarter and, instead of harder. Instead of going knocking every door in your neighborhood, hey, go talk to the unaffiliated voters in your neighborhood, right? Don't, of course, still talk to your Republican friends, but those are the ones that don't need convincing, right? So.
Well, go ahead.
I just want to say on top of that, too, you want to look at voting propensity. So the likelihood that that person's going to vote. So even among Republicans, you don't want to waste your time with someone that only votes in every other presidential election when we're running in a midterm. So on that, too, and the unaffiliated voters, you want to talk to 3 of 4 and 4 of 4 unaffiliated voters, because those are the people that are still going to turn out in a midterm, or people that can be convinced to turn out in a midterm. So I would say high propensity unaffiliated voters are who you want to target in a general election.
So that's great information. Ross didn't give us earlier today. No. So, okay. No, it's great. I remembered my thought earlier on what you said a minute ago. I've heard this multiple times that the problem with the Republican Party is they just want everything to be perfect. They can't compromise on anything. They're so worried about, like perfect example, our local Republican Party office, who's got the better crown or title or tier or whatever. So we got to figure out how to get over that. And then on the non-affiliated thing, hopefully no one's taking offense, but truly, I didn't know, again, learning, catching up super late in life, but in the spring, I was looking at the numbers or told about the numbers, and I didn't realize early on that only registered Republicans and Democrats can vote in the primary. So if you're non or unaffiliated, you don't even get a primary vote. And here we had, this crazy governor race where we had 19 Republican candidates. And in Douglas County, you guys probably know more exact numbers, but I believe it's like 33,000 and change Republican voters, 16,000 and change Democratic voters, and I think 31 or 30, somewhere around 31-ish unaffiliated. However, in the state, the unaffiliated is the largest group of voters in Oregon over the Republicans and Democrats. And so that's why those ones are so much more important right now. Again, hopefully, maybe we don't all like or think that our Republican candidates are perfect, but we got to get around that to try to get things back. And we have to go for those unaffiliated. And the other thing I would say, too, about specific to Lane County, because I appreciate that's a lot of area to cover, not as much as number 2. Obviously, those guys are screwed. But number 4 is a lot of county or a lot of area to cover. And I know when I was talking to Tom Kress about Measure 114, he said, it's worth it to do the work in Douglas County, but ultimately Douglas County is probably going to vote against that measure. Your focus probably also needs to be Lane County. And that redistricting change for Lane County for 4 is hurtful. So that's why, strategy and working harder and smarter counts so much there in the Lane County area. So don't take offense that, the focus might be another county or an unaffiliated, but those are the reasons why. And those unaffiliated voters are going to be what I think what makes or breaks the state this year in November. Let's get back to you guys. Sorry, I have a tendency to talk a lot. So, I mean, I guess we've kind of hit this a little bit, but what would you say? Anything that we haven't covered so far is what is the biggest problem Oregon faces in turning the state red thus far or facing November? And you can get specific to voter turnout.
Yeah, so I'll probably let all of us answer this because we all might have a different answer. Oregon's biggest problem with not turning Republican is that there's 300,000 more Democrats in the state of Oregon than Republicans. It's simple math, right? So again, we need to do our best to win over the unaffiliated voters, and in an election like this, we should be able to do that. We should be able to win the unaffiliated voters, hopefully 60-40, maybe a little bit more. But at the end of the day, if you're talking about winning statewide office in particular, what every Republican party should be doing, what every county party should be doing in an off year like 2021 or 2023 is we should be registering voters. It's again, like Ross was talking about, X's and O's. It's the boring, redundant work that is not interesting, but it's the biggest thing that we can do to help flip this state. And I would say that that's something that every party should be doing in the off years. Then the parties should transition to working on the primaries, getting the best candidates out of the primary so that you're excited to vote for them in the general election. And then, of course, after the primary, uniting around whoever made it to the general election and making sure they can at least beat the Democrat. That is how a 2-year cycle should work for every Republican Party in the state of Oregon.
Yeah, just kind of piggybacking off of what Alex said, voter registration is extremely important. So that's kind of my bread and butter. I started off doing voter registration in 2016. It is hard. Voter registration is not easy, right? I would stand outside the Piggly Wiggly supermarket and beg people to register to vote. It's tough, right? Especially, you know, convincing someone who's an unaffiliated voter to register Republican, right? And also, more to that, it's just like, there's a lot of people here in Douglas County that are just like me and you, right? That have the same ideals, but they just don't vote. I was at a restaurant, we'll say, the other night, and I met this guy, I had a conversation with this guy. And, you know, he's probably my age, you know, a country boy, if you will, like, you know, drove a truck, you know, went hunting and things like that. And he noticed my accent, so he asked me why I moved here. I told him I moved here to work in politics for Alec. And, you know, when the conversation was over, I handed him my card. He's like, oh, what do I need this for? I was like, you know, in case you ever have any questions. He's like, oh, you know, voting really doesn't matter, or, you know, it doesn't affect me. And I was like, well, that's the farthest thing from the truth, right? So it's just engaging with people like that. And especially people, I mean, we're probably the exception, not the rule. We're pretty young to be involved in politics. But, you know, you can start voting at the age of 18. I remember when I went to cast my first ballot, it was one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life, right? But a lot of 18-year-olds don't feel that way, you know? So it's just getting to the younger kids and getting in their head that, hey, this is important, right, to vote. So that's where I'm coming from.
Well, I think it's a couple of things. Like Alec and Ross said, it's registering voters in off years. But again, we're 57 days away from an election. We don't have time. And 57 days might sound like a long time until you realize that's only 8 weekends. That's not very long. That's blink of an eye. It might feel, every day might feel like an eternity for us working in politics, but in reality, it's very, very quick. So one of the reasons why Republicans lose, and lose consistently in Oregon, is Republicans don't show up and vote. And we don't go to our friends, we don't go to our neighbors. Some of us do. I see some of you here in this room that I've done this with, going out and making sure our neighbors are turning in their ballots who are Republicans. But also, what we're focusing on is going out and talking to those unaffiliated voters, making sure they know who the Republican candidate is, letting them know about the issues they care about. Because I can tell you right now, most unaffiliated voters, their top 3 issues are not our top 3 issues. They're not. And we have to accept that reality in Oregon. We can't run like we're in Alabama. We can't run like we're in Texas. We can't run like we're in Florida. DeSantis would lose here. He would not be elected governor of Oregon. He just wouldn't. He doesn't align with what the voters want. But voters here will elect Republicans, and they have in swing areas. When those Republicans talk about the issues that matter to people, regardless of party. So we need to focus in on races with the time we've got, with voters who are willing to listen and talk to them about the issues that they care about. I can tell you right now, for us, and this is different for other districts, but I can tell you, people care about health care. If you're older, if you are a senior citizen, you have trouble getting to specialists. In most parts of the district, you have trouble getting to Eugene. Prescription drug prices keep going further and further up because pharmaceutical companies don't have proper safeguards in place, shall we say. They care about, and this is something we probably all care about, gas prices and inflation. But those are the three issues that people care about. Most Republicans I talk to, healthcare is not on their radar. But it's important. And it's important to young people if you stop and think about it, because people like me, possibly people like these two, can't afford it. It's too expensive. If your job doesn't come with it, you don't have it. So you got to identify those issues, talk to those voters, and do everything you can over the next 57 days, the next 8 weekends, to swing those people. And that can be outdoor knocking with us or with another campaign, or that can be talking to your friends and neighbors, because I know everyone in this room has friends who are not Republican, has friends who don't think necessarily the way we do, but they care about those issues. And you can engage them, you can engage people where they're at to change that. And that's why Republicans lose. And just a quick anecdote, in 2018, Newt Bueller was about tied, a little behind, a little up, depending who you talk to going into the general election. The Democrats, in the last 2 weeks of the election, knocked 400,000 doors. Newt Bueller lost in a landslide because Republicans didn't get out there. Democrats engaged the middle, Republicans did not. As long as we stay in our cocoon, we don't get out there, we don't turn people out, we will continue to lose the same way we've lost for the last 30, 40, 50 years in Oregon. Are you all depressed now?
Boom. So,
Awesome. Yes.
so
All right, I'm Solon. I'm Alex's brother, unfortunately, so I got roped into all of this. I'm handling all the volunteering, so if you want to talk to me after, please feel free to come up and talk to me. So, yeah, we're doing door knocking and phone calls, and it's all through an app, super easy to use. We're all pretty friendly, so feel free to come up and talk to me after.
So, I'm glad that you talked about the voter turnout, because I was going to say, actually, what led me to reach out to you guys was I was so excited for the primaries, because I was like, when have people had more reasons to be pissed off at what's going on in the state than this year? And now's our shot. Now's our time. We're going to get out there and we're going to make a big wave. And it didn't happen. And I was, the day after the primaries, I was pissed off, and I was pissed off. I was actually pissed off at all the Oregonians that didn't vote, because it was what, a 32% voter turnout statewide. Now, presumably that 32% is only Republican Democrats, because it doesn't count the independent. But 32% of the state turned out in the primaries for, I mean, to me, no offense, but the governor race, like, that's it. It all trickles down from there. Not everything, sorry, but seriously, Department of Education, OSHA, OHA, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, all those positions are appointed by the governor. So I was just disgusted, I was mad, and I was like, what hope do we have if we can't even freaking come out in the primaries? So to expand on the last question, when you say they're knocking on the Democrats' door, the Republicans, who I wouldn't say are necessarily like a lazy person, but what's keeping them from voting when it's as simple as putting a freaking ballot in a mailbox? What's keeping them from voting? And I understand the consequence of them not voting is that we're not getting Republicans in, but like, can you can you get specific on when you don't vote Republican, what that means for the other side, besides obviously the fact that they win, how that works?
I just have Republicans who stay at home elect Democrats, right? Yes, that is just the fact of the matter, all right? There's no reason why everyone in this, there should be 100% participation rate in this state. I come from a state, Georgia, where you have to show up in person and you actually have to present a driver's license, right? Here, I mean, shoot, they mail it to your house and they even put a stamp on it for you, right? So there's no reason why people, and more to your point, people just, oh, it doesn't affect me, right? Like the guy I met at the restaurant, it doesn't affect me, or like, and you'll be, for the life of me, I don't know why. So we're in a midterm election, right? President's not on the ballot. It's not necessarily sexy, for lack of a better term. So people just, midterms, they don't really affect me. When midterms are huge, like we can pour over the data and you can see there's far more turnout in a presidential year than there is a midterm year. And there should be no reason for that. And we know that as Republicans, and we've just been in the business. And so we know we have to work that much harder to turn people out, right? So that's kind of what it comes down to. But just always remember, Republicans that stay home elect Democrats. That's just the truth of the matter, So, and I know sometimes there's no such thing as a perfect candidate, right? You may not agree with him on everything, but I mean, even a lightweight Republican, in my opinion, is better than a far left Democrat, And I think that's another reason. And another reason why, the whole election integrity thing, yes, I agree. But there's a lot of people who they won't even vote because they don't think their vote matters, right? Which that's a loser's mindset, in my opinion. I'll just be honest with everyone in this room. There's no reason, you know what I mean? And you can, and I understand, there are ways. I take my ballot up to Loomis every time. I don't mail mine because I don't like it. And then on the back end, I go and check to make sure my signature matched up, right? And I know Eli, he can speak to this because he's been in the room before when they've counted votes and whatnot. But, there's some things you can do. And you're right. And if you want to change, vote by mail, that's a state level thing, right? So we need to start there with ballot measure, things of that nature. But, I mean, I would love to see, people to go back and vote in person. And like we talked about this morning at breakfast, it's actually more popular than you would think, even amongst Republicans. Not this Republican or these Republicans, but I mean, it's really popular with people. It's easier to do that. So yeah.
I just wanted to say too on that note, politics is very cyclical, right? The first midterm after a new president, which is exactly what we're in, always goes to the opposition party. And it's fairly predictable, usually 15, 13, 18 seats in the House will go to the opposition party, which is us. Turnout is also affected. The opposition party, us, usually turns out 3 to 5% higher the first midterm after a new presidential. So even though we have a steep hill to climb with things like voter registration, with the district itself, with whatever, we should be turning out 3 to 5% higher than the Democrats this year. And we know that, and we need to take advantage of it. So again, please don't have voter apathy. Don't be thinking that your vote doesn't count because it's going to count this year more than any other year. And again, with all these open seats, especially with the governor's mansion, if we can't flip this state now with open seats, it's, to be honest, not going to happen anytime soon. So please get involved and get active in your community. Volunteer with my brother on my campaign. Do whatever you guys can do to help us get over the finish line. So when you're saying when I'm knocking on a door, my brother's got the script, but no, I would say that I'm going to reduce inflation, reduce the cost of healthcare, reduce the price of gasoline, which again affects all goods and therefore inflation. I mean, it's, again, mostly common sense stuff. We're thinking very big picture here. We're trying to get as many unaffiliateds to swing our way as possible because, again, Republicans should turn out 3 to 5% higher in the general election this year. We should win unaffiliateds 60-40 this year. It's still going to be a very tight race, so we need everyone possible We're not trying to scare anyone away. We're just trying to run on the common sense issues that most people agree on, and hopefully it's going to be enough because we're. Oh, domestic energy production, absolutely. I mean, that's something that should be already a thing just due to the national security aspect of it, not to mention the price of gasoline. Someone asked me a question if I was going to force oil companies to sell their oil for a certain price, and number one, that wouldn't do any good because we still import oil from overseas, so why would we tell American companies they can only charge, $2 a gallon when Saudi Arabia is charging us $4 a gallon, for instance? It would absolutely, anyway, there's a lot of, we'll take questions in a minute here, so I'll just digress.
That's a good example of federal issues, though. So kind of on that note then, I'll try to we'll wrap this up so you can spend time visiting with people after this. But besides knocking on the doors, which is clearly an established, effective means, what can we regular citizens do to become more effective as far as organizing and being involved? What tools or resources can we access, or just processes beyond where we're at already?
So I would say spend a lot of time talking to Ross and probably Eli as well. I mean, you all seem like a motivated bunch. You're out here attending these meetings on a weekday in the late afternoon, evening. You have the motivation. Hopefully you have the work ethic as well. I would say the biggest thing you can do is just get smarter when it comes to how to win races, because it sounds like you guys were kind of disappointed with some of the primary results, right? Every race is different. Some races, to be honest, are absolutely not winnable. The people that are running in the 1st and 3rd district, I wish them the best, but they're not going to win. The guy running in the 2nd district, Cliff Bentz, he's the incumbent congressman, he's safe no matter what he does. It's a safe Republican district. So analyzing which races you want to spend your time on. And again, some races, if they're very Republican, maybe you want to make a change in the primary and elect a different Republican. So analyzing what race you're going to decide to put your effort toward, and then how to win in that particular race. In a primary, of course, you want to run as far to the right as possible, get as many Republicans on your side as possible. But it's going to take the same principles that we're applying in our general election to take the unaffiliated vote. You need to figure out who the high propensity voters are, especially in a primary. It's going to be even fewer than our election. And again, if it's a local election, you can do things differently than we're doing. In a local election, say school board, even county commissioner, state rep, you can run a very effective door knocking campaign, because that one person whose door you're knocking on is a bigger percentage of the vote in Douglas County than it is in the entire 4th congressional district. So you can make a larger impact by knocking on doors that way, whereas we have to spend a lot of our money on TV. I would just, again, spend a lot of time organizing and figuring out what's the best use of your time, and then gathering up a few solid volunteers to help you execute.
Yeah, just also piggybacking off that too. You've already got a good group here, right? It seems like y'all are willing to do the work, but always go back to work harder, not smarter. I know it's a theme this evening, but there are tools that exist. There's technology out there, right? And that's actually one thing that we have up on the Democrats. I still walk with a paper walk book because I like it, but nonetheless, these people, we have so much better data. And there's this thing called GOP Data Center, and we can work with Abby to get that all figured out. But it gives you pretty much statewide access to every single registered voter, right? And that's important. Their address, things like that. And also just getting involved, how can just a regular person, get involved? Even if you go follow us on Facebook and just share one of our posts, right? You don't know who you're impacting, right? As trivial as that may sound, just sharing a Facebook post, that you believe in or that you agree with, to your own page, someone might see that and be like, oh, okay, well, Jan likes, Alec, I like him too, right? I know that's trivial, but it really does work. And then, just phone calls, and I'm not even talking about targeted ones. Like, once again, like, when November 8th comes around, make sure you call everyone that's close to you. And, hey, John, have you turned in your ballot? Hey, Bob, you dropped that in the mail yet? Well, hey, I'll come get it, take it up to the ballot box for me. Just literally the smallest things you can think of, Everyone can volunteer. Everyone can, do their part. And then beyond that, like Alex said, knocking doors and then making targeted phone calls. But, really just organizing a group like this and, just even having us up here tonight on stage, just kind of having, conversation instead of, questions about, this or that. I think it's been really helpful for me. And, so everyone can get involved, even just sharing a Facebook post, so.
Now, since all of you took the time to come out here and listen to a couple of very boring gentlemen pontificate all evening, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you guys are probably going to vote. So that's good. That's step one. Step two is going out and talking to all your friends and family who didn't bother to come out tonight and getting them to turn out. And step three is volunteering for us so that we can get all those other people in the middle to come out and vote for us. And maybe you can't walk doors, or you can't walk and knock on doors, but maybe you can make phone calls. And maybe you can't make phone calls, but you can write postcards. Maybe you can't write postcards, but you can share on Facebook, or you can leave a positive comment on a Facebook post. If you're not on social media, first of all, I envy you. I wish I didn't have social media. But if you don't have social media, you can talk to your friends. And when your friends go out and you hear them repeat a Democrat attack ad, you can politely share with them, well, that's really not true. This is actually the facts. You can share with them why they should turn out and vote and why they align with us. So I would encourage all of you, those three things. Talk to your friends, volunteer, do something, vote. We'll be around afterwards, of course, but thank you so much for having us. You've been very long-suffering to put up with us so long, but thank you again.
And I'll just add on top of that, a yard sign. What about that? Oregon, Eli always harps on it that Oregon invented the yard sign. It's literally the easiest thing you can do, which I have a bunch at the back, so I expect to be out after this meeting, right? Everyone's going to take a yard sign home with them. Or a bumper sticker. And everyone's like, oh, I don't want to stick it on my car. Stick it on your cooler you tote to work, right? People are always going, I don't put, you can find a place for the sticker, right? So just as simple as that. Retail politics is still a thing. I hate yard signs, I'll be honest with you, but, they are effective, right? If I'm friends with Eli and I see he's got an Alex sign, well, I like Eli, right? We're buddies. I'll vote for Alec. And then Eli comes over and has a conversation with me about how good Alec is. I'll vote for him. So it's just.
They're also nice to antagonize those people who are
also true.
directly opposed.
Yes. And they love to steal them too, but we have plenty.
Thanks, Jeff.
I will say one of the advantages that we have is we're on a TV a little bit more than the Democrat, and at least internally with the campaign, we've been able to outraise the Democrat, which is incredibly rare for a Republican running in Oregon. So we are running a great campaign. We have a lot going for us, so don't lose faith, even though we've been kind of berating y'all all evening. So we are just waiting to see if the national party is going to help us out as much as the Democrat Party is helping my opponent out. But we really do have a good shot at this, all these districts and the governor's mansion, so don't lose heart. Just make sure you get out and do all the things we've been talking about.
By the way, fourth quarter, Seattle 2017.
Jeff! He didn't mean that. He didn't mean that. He's not paying attention.
Just kidding.
Okay, anyways, I'm thinking, regardless of however it goes in November, maybe you guys' schedule will allow another time for you guys to come back in the future and we can talk a little bit more. We try to, not drag everybody on too long, you guys, the crowd. But again, they're gonna be available to talk with you guys, and they're very informative, very easy to talk to. So our next meeting, I think, Coalition, will be October 10th, I believe. Election integrity is usually on Mondays, but I'm not sure what's happening next Monday for sure, so stay tuned for an email on that. If you don't get emails from us, Sylvia, can people see you see Sylvia? She's standing there, beautiful with her hand up in the air. Give her your email address if you aren't on our Telegram or getting an email to get like our heads up for when our meetings are and stuff. Our website's in progress. And so everybody, thank you for coming. Let's give these guys a hand for showing up and spending their time tonight.